Hello fellow YouTubers, this is DVD Collector 1986 here with a new video. I'm just going to do a quick video here and I'm going to briefly discuss 20 movies in no particular order that really had a profound effect on me growing up. I grew up with Blockbuster, HBO, VHS tapes, DVD came later, but these are 20 movies that really made me the movie enthusiast and ultimately movie collector that I am today. The first movie I want to mention is Batman 1989. This was the movie that made me the Batman fan that I am today. Love it. And it stars Michael Keaton, Kim Basinger, and it was directed by Tim Burton. Huge movie when it came out. I was real young at the time. I didn't realize how big the hype was for this movie, but I love it. And it was the first really dark interpretation of Batman in a live-action movie. So I love it. The next movie is Batman Returns, the sequel. I believe this came out in 91 or 92. I think that this movie was even darker than the first one. You had Michael Keaton coming back a second time playing Batman. You had Christopher Walken. You had Michelle Pfeiffer playing Catwoman. You had Danny DeVito playing Penguin. And just really good cast, really good movie. I actually think that Batman Returns is a better movie than the first Batman, although I love them both. Both of those movies were huge in my childhood. I used to watch these movies over and over and over on VHS. And I used to even have a Batman costume, a kid's Halloween costume with the Batman mask. And I would get a blanket or some sort of a sheet, and I would make it into a cape, and I would act out the movies, both of them, and I would run around the living room and jump off the couch and do karate kicks and all that kind of stuff. Really fun movies, both of them. The other movie I want to mention is Aliens. It came out in 1986. Directed by James Cameron, obviously. You're going to see some other James Cameron movies on this list later. But I always loved this movie. This was my favorite action movie as a kid because it had Marines in it. It had aliens, and it was a combat movie. It was an action movie. It was awesome. But the thing about this movie that really made it good for me was I liked the characters. You had Michael Biehn, you had Sigourney Weaver, you had Lance Henriksen, you had Jeanette Goldstein, you had Bill Paxton. May he rest in peace. I've always been a huge Bill Paxton fan. So Bill Paxton was the actor who stole the show in this movie to me. He was the comic relief. And this is one of those action movies. I watched it constantly growing up. I watched this movie so many times that I can quote this movie word for word from beginning to end without even watching the movie. I know this movie backwards and forwards. Amazing movie. Probably my favorite as a child, second favorite James Cameron movie. Also, Rambo First Blood Part 2, the second Rambo movie. A lot of people love the first one. I love the second one. I've always been a fan of the second one. And it wasn't directed by James Cameron. However, the script for Rambo First Blood Part 2 was written by James Cameron. Out of the original trilogy, it was my favorite Rambo movie. So another movie that I grew up with was called Uncommon Valor. Very similar in tone to Rambo First Blood Part 2, starring Gene Hackman. and just a really good action movie. Had some really sad parts in it. Had a very somber, very emotional ending. I just watched it recently, a couple of days ago, and it's still just as good as I remember it being. It's one of those '80s movies that nowadays a lot of people kind of have forgotten about it. It also stars Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries. Really good movie. And another movie that I grew up watching, Last Action Hero. Arnold is one of my favorite actors, and I know there's a lot of movies he did in the 80s, but this is definitely my second favorite of all the movies he's done. I'll talk about the other one later in the list, but I'll just want to say this about this movie. As a movie enthusiast and movie lover, the coolest thing about this movie was that the main character was this like 12 to 13-year-old boy that would go to the movie theater constantly, and he was given this golden ticket that had magical powers. And when the ticket when the powers of the ticket would become active, it would literally transport him into the fictional world, into the screen of the movie he was watching. So, and when he goes into the movie, he doesn't see the cameraman, he doesn't see the script supervisor. It's literally the fictional world of the fictional movie he's watching. He becomes the sidekick of the main character in that movie, who is named Jack Slater. He becomes the sidekick of Jack in that movie, and they battle the bad guys and get into these really crazy situations. And as a movie enthusiast, I always loved that. I've always thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could be transported into your favorite movie and like participate in it and interact with the characters? It would be awesome. And that's exactly what the premise of this movie was. Also, Back to the Future. You can't be a movie enthusiast and not like Back to the Future. Back to the Future is amazing. To me, it's one of very few movies that I consider a perfect movie. You've got the DeLorean, you've got Michael J. Fox, and it's just an amazing story. And all the loose ends, all the plot points, all the things that are set up in the movie, every single one of them has a payoff at the end of the movie. So there's nothing left unresolved at the end of the movie. That's why I consider it a perfect movie. It's a lot of people think it's a Steven Spielberg movie. I believe he produced it, but it was actually directed by Robert Zemeckis. And it's just a wonderful, amazing popcorn flick. They don't make movies like that anymore. Another movie I want to mention is Predator. This is another really good movie starring Arnold. And it's a combat movie. It's got soldiers, lots of really big action scenes, and then all of a sudden there's this extraterrestrial creature that you don't see for most of the movie that starts hunting down the men in Arnold's squad. And obviously Arnold ends up being the last man standing, and he has to fight the alien creature. And it's just a really well done 1980s action flick. I used to watch this movie all the time growing up. And it was one of the first movies that I purchased on VHS. Before I collected DVDs and Blu-rays and now 4K, before all that, I had a massive VHS collection. I think I had about 200 VHS tapes at one point. But this was Predator was one of the movies that I watched all the time. Another movie, we're going back into James Cameron territory, The Abyss. I believe this came out in the late 80s, early 90s. I want to say 90s. Ed Harris, and it's an underwater movie. It deals with extraterrestrials. It stars Michael Biehn. as well, and it's just a very well done movie. And it's kind of a hard movie to describe, but just rest assured, it's an amazing film. If you haven't seen it, go see it. You can get the DVD pretty cheap. Next, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I love the Friday the 13th films. I'm more of a Halloween guy, but Friday the 13th is my second favorite horror franchise. And a lot of people do not like Jason Takes Manhattan. However, it plays on my fears. I always thought Jason in this movie was very scary. I wouldn't want to run into him. And number two, they're on a boat. So even if you want to get away from Jason, you have to jump off the boat into the ocean. And that's my next biggest fear, is drowning and being lost in the ocean. Terrifying to me. So this movie played on all my fears. And the boat that he's on in Jason Takes Manhattan, because most of the movie takes place on a boat, the boat that they're on is very, very creepy. Another movie that I grew up with was the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Another franchise I enjoy, but a lot of people, their favorite is the third one. I really enjoy the third one, but for me, it's always been the first. Just the fact that Freddy Krueger is like a dream demon that can enter your dreams and kill you while you're sleeping. That's scary. I always thought that was a very creepy idea, and I always felt like everybody could relate to that because everybody has to sleep, and ultimately everybody dreams, and everybody at some point or another has had nightmares. So I always found the first Nightmare on Elm Street to be a very creepy, very well done movie. The movie Stand By Me. This is not a horror film, even though it was written by Stephen King. It's more of a coming of age type movie about a group of friends in the summertime who go searching for the body of this person who went missing, and they hear a rumor about where the body might be located off of some train tracks. So they spend a couple of days on a weekend, I believe, going to search, see if they can find it, and obviously at the end of the movie they do find it. But that's not what the movie is about. The movie is about all the stuff that happens leading up to them finding it. All the interactions between the characters. They all have backstories and problems with their parents, problems at home, problems at school, and just, you know, they all get along really well, and they're like best friends. And by the end of the movie, you know every single one of these characters very, very well. And also the movie RoboCop. Peter Weller's first movie playing RoboCop. Amazing movie. And really good practical effects, directed by Paul Verhoeven. Amazing movie. I love the second one too, but I've always liked the first one a little bit more. You've also got Nancy Allen playing RoboCop's partner, Officer Lewis. Just a very, very gritty sci-fi action flick from 1987. This is another movie that I watched constantly growing up. Speaking of movies about robots, Terminator 2. This is my favorite James Cameron movie ever. Say what you will about the first movie, the second movie was better. I believe Terminator 2 is a better movie, and I think it outdid and surpassed the first film by leaps and bounds. There's so many memorable scenes in this movie. The scene with where the T-1000 and the Terminator fight when the Terminator has his arm ripped off, amazing scene. But the most profound and also heartbreaking scene that is most memorable to me is the scene at the very end when the Terminator looks at John and says, "I know now why you cry, but it's something I could never do." And I am not going to lie, when I was a kid and I first saw this movie, I cried my eyes out at that scene. And still to this day, I still get choked up when I get to that part of the movie. Saving Private Ryan, one of the greatest war films ever made, the first of its kind. The reason that we have movies like Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor, Fury, We Were Soldiers, 13 Hours, is because of Saving Private Ryan. It was the first of its kind. It was the first really realistic, in-your-face, gritty action film, but it was a war film that was realistically done. Like, you could almost, it was almost like watching a documentary. And it was based on a real historic event, the invasion of Normandy during World War II. Halloween 4. I love the Halloween franchise. It's my favorite horror franchise. I grew up with this franchise. I remember going to Blockbuster Video and I would rent Halloween 4, 5, and 6 together all the time. Watch them constantly, back to back to back. And wore the tapes out. And I love Halloween 4. Anybody who is familiar with my channel knows that Halloween 4 is the first Halloween film I ever saw. So I'm not the biggest fan. I love the first film, but I'm not the biggest fan of the first movie. And the reason why is because my introduction to this franchise was Halloween 4. And I think Halloween 4 is the best Halloween movie in the entire franchise. Without Donald Pleasence, this franchise is done. Highway to Hell. This is an obscure movie from the early 90s that I don't hear too many people talking about. Stars, I believe, Chad Lowe and also Christy Swanson and various other actors and actresses who do like cameo appearances and other character roles throughout the movie. It's a horror comedy, and it's basically a guy who drives through a portal to hell to rescue his girlfriend who was kidnapped by this cop, this like demon cop from hell, who kidnapped this guy's girlfriend because the devil wants her. And he has to go rescue his girlfriend. And The Breakfast Club. That's my favorite John Hughes movie. I watched this movie later in life when I was a teenager. For every character in the movie, they represented a different personality. And every one of those characters, you knew people like that in high school. The last couple of movies I want to mention, these are more modern, but Logan and Bubba Ho-Tep. Logan is a comic book movie that is made for people who don't like comic book movies. A lot of people dismissed Logan without even seeing it. They're like, oh, it's just another one of those comic book movies, Another one of those X-Men movies. No. To me, Logan is the greatest comic book movie ever made. And Bubba Ho-Tep is a horror comedy starring Ozzie Davis and Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell plays an elderly Elvis Presley who lives in a nursing home, and he has this other character that he becomes friends with, played by Ozzie Davis, who is this man who believes that he himself is JFK. So you've got these two really interesting personalities. There's a lot of hilarious banter back and forth between the two of them. And there's this mummy, this resurrected mummy that keeps coming into the nursing home at night. And JFK and Elvis have to battle this mummy. Sounds really weird, but it's actually a really well done, very heartfelt movie. And the movie is a mixed bag. It's got funny parts in it. It's got sad parts in it. And it's got absolutely hilarious parts in it. That will do it for this video. Those are 20 movies that made me the movie enthusiast that I am today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I will let you guys go, and I will catch you all in the next video. Thanks.